Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, just before we start with this video, please remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from Vicky Marie Chats. Okay, so I have to warn you immediately that this is an especially heinous crime, if you like, and one that will resonate with every woman, not only women, but I think anyone. If you travel on public transport, if you're ever sort of out in the world at any time in the public, this case will resonate with you. And this is the case of this woman, this beautiful woman, Iryna. And Iryna was a refugee, really, from the Ukraine war. She's Ukrainian. She'd gone over to America fleeing the Ukraine war. Let's have a read about Iryna before we talk about her story. Let's have a little read of an article that will tell us more about her. And as I say, just a warning for what you're going to hear, but also what you're going to see, because we are going to see the video of what happened to Iryna. Not the actual attack itself, but the before and after. So, just a warning for upsetting content. So, here she is, beautiful lady, 23 years old. Just a baby, really. Just starting off on her life. And, then the war broke out in Ukraine. And so to escape the war, to flee the war, she came to America. And so we're going to have a look at the footage of what happened to Iryna. And as it turned out, she probably would have been safer in the Ukraine than she was in America. So poor Iryna, she was stabbed to death in a random attack on the train after a work shift. And this has led to a big debate about the mental health system, the crime system. This is Iryna just here with the cap on, sitting in front of this guy in the red, who was to end her life that day for absolutely no reason. They didn't know each other. The guy has been in and out of the criminal justice system, has got mental health issues. And there she is, as you can see, on a train. I think it's a train. Lots of people surrounded by people. Wouldn't you feel safe? Wouldn't you feel that if you were on a train surrounded by people? I mean, maybe if it was only you and the man in the carriage, you might feel a bit vulnerable. But she wouldn't have even thought that anything could happen to her in a public place like that, would she? So this murder of Iryna Zarutska on a train in North Carolina last month has sparked ongoing concerns about crime in the US. Not only in the US, though, is it? It's everywhere. Mental health, crimes. I mean, what is it? What's going on? And the violence of them. Not that long ago, there was a woman literally set on fire on the New York subway. And not only everybody just stood around doing absolutely nothing, they started videoing it. She had petrol poured over her and was set on fire for, by a person that she didn't even know. And nobody did anything. That's the other thing you'll find when we're watching this video. Nobody does anything. I don't really know what they could do. It'd be terrifying, wouldn't it? This man had a knife. He was dripping blood. And also everyone, I think, would be in shock, wouldn't they? Not really knowing what to do. Anyway, so a video released on Friday by the Charlotte Area Transit System shows Ms Zarutska seated on a train when she is stabbed from behind several times in what appears to be a random attack. And the suspect, I mean, there's a video of it, 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. is charged with first-degree murder. The graphic video has circulated on social media, attracting the attention of influencers, commentators and politicians. Charlotte's mayor on Monday called the killing a tragic failure by the courts and magistrates, and she vowed to deploy more officers to public transit sites. well, again, no, where's the officer? There should be security surely on public transport these days. So President Donald Trump sent love and hope to Ms Zarutska's family, saying on Monday her killing was horrible. There are evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country. I think you're not handling it, Donald. You're too busy, attacking all the immigrants, which some are not good people, I know, but there are Americans that are not good people as well. Outrage at the case comes as President Donald Trump threatens crime crackdowns in Democrat-run cities. In an online obituary, Ms Zarutska's family wrote that she fled the war in Ukraine along with her mother and siblings in 2022 and had quickly embraced her life in the United States. It said she was a gifted and passionate artist, loved animals, and was happiest when surrounded by family and loved ones. So this is them, as I say, we are going to watch the whole video. But yeah, she sat there looking at her phone. She would feel she was safe. Public transport. I noticed she's sitting here on the outside seat. I always used to do that because you didn't want somebody to come and sit next to you, did you? If you sit on the outside, on the aisle seat, is if you sit next to the window, just shows you're not safe from nutters, whatever you do. But if you sit in the window seat, somebody might come and sit next to you. And it might not be a nutter. It might be somebody with BO who lean all over you or be inappropriate. The public transport is, it's not nice, is it, sometimes to go on public transport, especially when it's too busy. But this guy sat behind her, so it didn't save her, unfortunately. But so it makes you wonder, was she thinking? She looks quite defensive. Maybe just in general going on public transport was difficult for her, like it's difficult for a lot of us. It feels like she's sort of shrinking into herself a bit, just thinking, just let me get home. Just let me get off this train and get home. So Charlotte's mayor called the killing a tragic failure by the courts and magistrates because this man has a history of crime. And why is he out in the public? There's been a lot of talk, isn't it, about how often most crime is committed by repeat offenders. So actually, although even in places where there's a lot of crime, it tends to be the same people, committing the crimes. What's the answer to that? I wonder. So North Carolina, her family said her absence leaves a deep void, but her spirit will forever remain in the hearts of those who loved her. And North Carolina Governor Josh Steen said he was appalled by the footage of Ms Zarutska's killing. We need more cops on the beat to keep people safe. I've been saying that for ages. It doesn't matter how much CCTV you've got. That's going to help you catch people, but it's not going to stop things happening in the first place. So the Democratic governor said that on X, and he called for the state legislature to pass a law enforcement package to address vacancies in our state and local agencies so they can stop these horrific crimes and hold violent criminals accountable. You should feel safe on public transport, especially when you're surrounded by people. They say that you're more likely to get help in a crisis situation if you're somewhere where there's hardly any people than you are if you're in like a busy city walking down the street and something happens. You're less likely to get help because everybody just walks past and presumes that somebody else is going to help you. Whereas if you're in a more remote area, with less people around, people are more likely to help because they feel like it's only them that can help. But most people, and I don't blame people worry about their own safety. If they can leave somebody else to deal with it, they will. So yeah, he's called for a law enforcement package to address vacancies in our state and local agencies so they can stop these horrific crimes and hold violent criminals accountable. You know, what is going to happen to this guy now? I hope he's never going to come out of prison again. Republicans and right-wing commentators have raised questions about the role of the judicial system in the incident, including why Brown was free despite reportedly having an extensive criminal record. In my opinion, they are. They are accountable. You know, it's like with the Harrow, baby Emmanuel Harrow case. You let a child abuser out without hardly any punishment when they've already abused the child. You know, it's got to be odds on that they're going to abuse another child, isn't it? And the people that let free Jake Harrow, you know, the judge, he should be held accountable as well. So so this is the guy. He's been convicted of armed robbery, felony larceny, break and enter, 8 years in jail for robbery with a dangerous weapon. He also suffers from mental health issues and is homeless, according to media reports. So, you know, he's a pretty hopeless guy, really, isn't he? What support was he under? You know, why was he just roaming the streets, a danger to normal people? This poor girl, you know, she's escaped from the Ukraine because of the war. And this is what happens to her. Just sat on a train looking at a phone. In her statement, coming home from work. In her statement, Mayor Lyles said that a solution is needed to oppress repeated offenders who do not face consequences for their actions, and those who cannot get treatment for their mental illness and are allowed to be on the streets. And it comes down to this mental health care again. I don't know what the answer is, by the way. I'm not saying I know all the answers. I don't. But it's got to be sorted. You know, and I was thinking about it like years ago. I'm old enough to remember. I'm from Britain originally. I'm now currently live in Spain, in Europe. But when I lived in the UK years and years ago, when I was very young, when I lived in Manchester, I do remember, I don't know if any of you chatters out there from the UK remember, do you remember Mrs Thatcher, our Prime Minister at the time, bringing in care in the community? Now, you know, historically in Britain, people with mental health issues, they were kept in institutions. And that wasn't necessarily a good thing either. You know, a lot of people were literally tied down, kept, you know, there were a lot of these mental institutions and people were treated badly. Now, care in the community came in. And Mrs Thatcher didn't bring in care in the community because she cared about the people with mental health issues. She brought it in because she's trying to save money. And it went sort of from one extreme to another, and very quickly. In fact, it went so quickly, things changed so quickly, I actually remember it happening. So when I lived in Manchester, there's a place in the centre of Manchester called Piccadilly Gardens, which is like, you know, exactly where it says, like a little place in the centre of the city where people can go, sit on a bench, have their lunches, flowers, you know, chat with each other. And it used to be a beautiful place. You know, when I was young, Piccadilly Gardens, it was beautiful. And then, of course, what happened with care in the community suddenly? And it really was that sudden. I experienced it. I lived through it. It wasn't safe to sit in Piccadilly Gardens anymore because someone would come and sit down next to you on the bench who was, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, obviously mentally challenged in one way or another. It's scary. You know, for me at the time, it'd be scary now, to be honest, but even more scary as a young girl, teenager, really, 19, 20, maybe 21 when I worked in Manchester Town Centre. It was terrifying. You know, because people with mental health issues, you know, I feel for them. It's not their fault. I know that. But it's still scary to deal with. It is scary. Someone comes up to you ranting and raving at you or talking to themselves or, you know, saying weird things or producing a knife or whatever. It's terrifying. So I think the care in the community idea, I don't think people were assessed well enough to see if, if they were capable of being in the community. Were they actually looked after, or were they just turfed out of these mental institutions, and then the next thing they're homeless on the streets, sniffing glue or doing whatever they're doing, begging, because they've got nowhere to go and at least when they were in the institutions, they were being fed, they had a roof over their head. I'm not saying the institutions were perfect, because they weren't, but surely we could have improved the institutions, not just released everyone. So basically what Mrs. Thatcher did, she just released all these people, or under her watch all these people were released, which fine, but they weren't given the care and attention that they needed, that at least they were getting in the institutions. So, it's, let me know what you think, as always. I mean, institutions unmonitored institutions are not a good thing. There were terrible things happened in those institutions. I'm not saying there were good things, but why not just improve the institutions instead of? So this young girl, 23 years old, has lost her life for a failure of the justice system and the mental health system in America. That's basically what's happened. So for some reason, he's seen her. You see on the photo, she's very slight. Because they always pick the most vulnerable person, don't they? He's picked her because she's very slight and easy to kill, I would imagine. I don't know if she got on there and sat in front of him, or he got on there and sat behind her. But why has he chosen her, to kill? Because she looks, sort of, what's the word? Easy to kill in a way, because she's so slight. She doesn't look like she could defend herself, but anybody would be struggling to defend themselves, to be honest, when you're just sitting there looking at your phone and somebody just jumps on you. He could have taken anyone by surprise, couldn't he? So the suspect's mother, who didn't want to be identified, told local news outlet WSOC TV that she believes the attack could have been prevented. Of course it could have been prevented. North Carolina Representative Brendan Jones, a Republican, wrote on X that Ms Zarutska's death is the result of decades of Democrat DAs and sheriffs putting their woke agendas above public safety. Violent criminals commit crimes with impunity while families live in fear. And I agree. I think some violent criminals are just never going to change. Now, years ago, don't know, again, anyone who's maybe a little bit older like me, do you remember in America, was it Ronald Reagan who brought in the 3 strikes you're out? That you had 3 chances of, if once you'd offended 3 times, that was it. It was life imprisonment. And, I'm not against that, really. I mean, I'm talking about violent crimes. I'm not talking about 3 cases of shoplifting. It'd have to be discussed, and it'd have to be agreed upon, what the actual, stipulations were. But really, if someone commits 3 violent crimes, they shouldn't be given another chance. I mean, 3 times is quite a lot, isn't it? And it reminded me of this. So 3 strikes you're out was the expression. And it reminded me of once is a coincidence. Let's have a look. Yeah, there's a saying, isn't there? Once is a coincidence. Let's have a look at this is how it started off. It's supposed to have started off, this expression, in James Bond, in Goldfinger, Ian Fleming's Goldfinger. And it's once is a happenstance, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is enemy action. And that's sort of over the years sort of convoluted, if you like, to a more common expression. Once is an accident, twice is a coincidence, 3 times is a pattern. And I think that's quite a common phrase nowadays. And I agree. Yeah, you know, what it's like with Jake Harrow, again, going back to him with the baby. You know, maybe the first time he attacked his, weeks old baby. I mean, I don't, you know, to me, it's still beyond it. But yeah, he did it once. The judge gave him another chance. But, you know, I'm not blaming the judge for giving him another chance, but he didn't give him any proper punishment. Get the punishment, then you get your other chance. Now he's done it twice. Is he going to get away with it again? Is he going to be a free man again to go off and have more children to abuse and to kill? You know, this is what I mean. People don't. There are certain things, like sometimes people do things in their youth, especially, don't they? You know, maybe when they're a teenager and that they do daft things and they never return to do those things again. That happens. So everybody deserves a second chance, but not a third chance. Not in my opinion, anyway. Let me know what you think. So Republican Florida Congressman Randy Fine said he would introduce legislation to hold judges accountable when violent repeat offenders commit new crimes. And those 12 plus judges that released DeCarlos Brown Jr. should have their day in court too, he added. Sorry, the phone's ringing. Nobody there. Should have their day in court too, he added. While declining to comment on the specifics of the case, Mecklenburg County District Attorney Spencer Merriweather outlined the challenges of holding defendants with mental health issues accountable for their actions. In an interview with Axios, he said that many are held in hospitals while courts wait for them to be mentally able to stand trial. So yeah, it's clear that this poor girl's murder could have been prevented. And now I'm going to show you the video of the attack. As I say, it's not the actual attack, but it's the lead up to it. It's before and after. Please, you know, be advised that it's not very nice, obviously. And if you think you prefer not to watch it, it's best just to fast forward this video. Okay. Okay, so this guy is already on the train, isn't it? So he's sat there. He seems to be talking to himself. And then poor Iryna gets on the train. Yeah, he's not acting normally, is he?
This stop is Stanley Park Station. Please exit right.
I mean, do you think he was thinking about killing someone then, or it was just an idea that came to him? Do you think he did it on purpose so he'd go to prison? Because sometimes for people who've not got a very good life, prison can be better. You know, at least they're getting fed, they've got a roof over their heads. This guy's homeless, probably rides the trains at night just for somewhere to get out the cold. And here's Iryna getting on, and see, as I say, she's very slight, and poor girl chooses that seat in front of this nutter. How sad. You know, I wonder if she would have gone up the train the other way. You know, and he's looking at her as she sits down. The train starts moving again. He's looking. Why did he want to attack her? I just don't know. Why? What did she do wrong? So she's got her work uniform on. She'd been
Please stand
working.
clear. Doors are closing. Train is about to move.
And out comes his knife. So what he's doing here is taking out a knife and opening it up. So that's when he's decided what he's going to do. And then he just literally stabs her many, many times, but in the neck. Just, you know, that poor girl. But you see, so they've closed in on him, opening up the knife, getting ready. That's a very quick decision he made. She'd only just sat down. So was he already thinking of killing someone? Anyway, off he goes to the door. Look, he's dripping blood everywhere. People don't know what to make of it. I mean, a lot's been said about everybody just standing by. But what were they supposed to do? I mean, look, they're probably thinking, what the hell? What the hell? And then they just look round. Nobody's doing anything, but he's walking around, dripping blood everywhere. What would you do? I don't know. You'd be like a bit sort of. They're all just sat there like zombies. He's videoing, somebody there was videoing, everybody gets their phone out. Look, looking out the window, pretending nothing's happening. He looks a bit worse for wear himself. Oh my God. They're just walking through the blood, stepping over the blood, moving away. They can't wait to get off. I mean, you would be terrified, I've got to say. Like, if I, especially, I don't know. I mean, some people are just not even registering that anything's happened. The ones that are registered, I mean, it's hard. This reminds me of Riley the other day when he had his problem with his ear. That's what my floor was like. He was dripping blood everywhere. These people are just waiting to get off, I think, but other people are just sitting there as if nothing's happened. It's chilling, isn't it, really?
This stop is East West Boulevard Station. Please exit right.
Oh, he gets off there. Now people are starting to run a bit, panic a bit, stepping over the blood, realizing what's happened. It just seems amazing to me that you can be on a train with all those people, still not be safe. So I think there's a little bit of a lesson here. Try not to sit with your back to anybody like these, and you don't always have a choice, do you? But these seats, obviously, where you can keep an eye at least on what's going on. But she didn't know she had a nutter sat behind her, did she? She didn't know. She's got on there. She didn't know anything about him. Maybe these criminals, then, they should tattoo on their foreheads, I am a violent criminal, stay away from me. Maybe they should do that if they're not going to lock them up for life. It's no good thinking, oh no, that won't be fair. That won't be fair on the person. Got to start being fair on the victims and stop worrying about these perpetrators. Now, that man, he probably has got terrible mental health issues. Then he still should be away from the public. It's terrible. Maybe it isn't his fault. You can bet 100% he's going to plead not guilty on the grounds of insanity. But would you like to think that he was wandering around a street near you because he'd been released because people said, oh, well, it was mental health issues? Dripping the blood everywhere. He's a big guy as well. Everyone would have been frightened to approach him. I do understand that. He's scary looking. He's a big guy. He's just murdered someone. He's got a knife. You're not going to want to say, "Hey, dude," like what you're doing. So it looks like he's been taking something. He doesn't look to be, completely there. He's either drunk or substance abuse or a bit of both. It amazes me how homeless people always find money for substance abuse, but you know, don't seem to find the money to get themselves sorted. But they need help to get themselves sorted, don't they? So I don't know what help is offered there in North Carolina. No idea. Obviously
This
not
stop is
much.
East West Boulevard Station. Please exit right.
He's probably cut himself because quite often in stabbings, people cut themselves as well by accident, with the force of putting the knife in. Look, someone getting on there with a bloody pushchair, or was going to get on with a pushchair. Probably took one look at all this blood on the floor and everybody getting off. So let's watch it one more time. No commentary this time. God, you just think if only she would have sat somewhere else.
This stop is Stanley Park Station. Please exit right.
Gosh.
Please stand clear. Doors are closing. Train is about to move. This stop is East West Boulevard Station. Please exit right.
So that's where the panic started. So apparently he did not try and run away. He just went and waited to be apprehended. I think you heard him saying, I stabbed a girl. I'm sure that's what I heard. I stabbed a girl, did he say? Dear God. Why is it always women as well? So the lady that got set on fire on the New York subway, a woman. Why choose a woman? Women are easier targets. It's gender violence as well, really, isn't it? You picked that girl Iryna because she was a woman and because she's an attractive woman, probably, and because she's a white woman, and because she's very slight, and he thought that she won't be able to fight back. So, I think all those are probably factors. It's probably gender, race, all sorts mixed up in that crazy thing he did. And, 100% is going to plead not guilty on the grounds of
This stop is
insanity.
East West Boulevard Station. Please
Will this
exit right.
man be out again one day? Where do you call the limits on violent offenders? I mean, personally, for me, once someone's over the age of 21 and they're committing violent crime after violent crime, 3 is enough to mean they should never be released into society again. It's a debate that needs to happen. I'm not saying, somebody their first offence or young people necessarily. Talk about anyone over the age of 21 who commits more than 3 violent offences. Enough is enough. This poor girl who never did any harm to anybody, who was fleeing war in Ukraine and went to America, and she was not safe. She would have been safer in a war zone than she was on that train. Disgusting. I'm going to light a virtual candle for Iryna, and I hope she's, with God, and I hope there's justice for Iryna. And my prayers, I go out to her family. I just feel for her family so much. To lose your daughter is bad enough. In circumstances where it could have been avoided is even worse. It's bad enough to lose your loved one when it's an accident that couldn't be avoided. Accidents happen, car accident, whatever. But this, where it's, somebody who should have been locked up, a serial violent offender, and this beautiful girl, she's been a victim of the system as well as him. Okay, so that's it. That's all I've got to say about this case. I just want as much focus on it as possible. Mental health. I think mental health is the biggest. Forget immigration and all that. If you don't realise that mental health, not only in Britain, not only in America, in every country probably in the world, I don't know how it is in Russia or China or those places, but all the Western world that we know about, mental health is a massive issue, and it's killing people. It's killing more people than cancer. If it doesn't kill people, that they take their own lives, they take other people's lives, or they take other people's lives and then their own lives. These are all mental health issues that need to be dealt with everywhere. Oh, so Godspeed, Iryna. Honestly, my heart just breaks for this girl and for her family. Just doing nothing wrong. She's just sitting on the train, for Christ's sake. So you can't take your dog for a walk. You can't sit on a train. You can't walk out late at night. You can't do this. You can't do that. Women are prisoners. Can't even go out of your house, and then you're not even safe in your own home. Disgusting. Okay, thank you for watching. I felt myself building up into a rant there. I'm not going to do that. So thank you for watching. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And and just as I say, one lesson, if you like, it's not a lesson we should have to learn, but you've always got to be aware of your surroundings. And if you're on public transport, be aware of who's behind you. Try not to sit with anyone behind you if you can. I mean, you shouldn't have to do this, but they're just, it's just advice, I suppose. It may not save you. She could have been sat opposite him and he could still have done it. But the thing is, because he was sat behind her, it was like she didn't even see it coming, bless her. So take care, look after yourself and look after you, because you are the most important person. Don't forget, even because there'll be those of you out there, I know, will be either dealing with your own mental health, or what I think is actually more difficult in some ways, dealing with one of your loved ones' mental health issues that you haven't got that much control over, but you're the one that has to deal with them. So take care of yourself. Always remember to look after you, because you are the most important person. Because if you don't look after you, you can't look after anybody else. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you so much. Bye.